Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Clean Energy Edge. I am Russ Bates. Brian Scott, how are you doing today?
Excellent again, Russ. Excellent. Nice to see you. How are you?
Yeah, I am doing great. No complaints. Everything. It's just like another Friday for me, right? That's technically Thursday. So, um, well, let's get into our topic. And today we're going to talk about Elon Musk. Um, Elon is definitely a player in the clean energy world, right? I would call him a bit of a revolutionary person
Yeah.
in clean energy, but he's taken a turn here in the last 12, 18 months, something like that, where he went a bit political. He went really political and even had a role in the White House for a bit, and decided someone decided it's time for him to move out of that position. I think a lot of the Tesla stockholders were glad he was supposedly going back to focus on his businesses. I think he had a few words with President Trump. And this was a week ago that all happened, and now he seems to be repositioning again. So let's talk a little bit about what's at stake for him, for Tesla, for SpaceX, the Boring Company, Starlink, all of that. Let's jump in. I mean, Brian, let's start with his role as maybe a bit of a clean energy pioneer. What's your thoughts on, let's call it, Musk's early years, um let's say before pre 2023, 2024.
I mean, I was a great admirer, even just as a business person, as an entrepreneur. I always kind of feel like it's the resilience, the ability to just stick with something through the ups and downs, that generally provides success. That whole overnight success is really kind of a myth. It's a one in a billion, if anything. And most people fail, 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 and then succeed. They just get smarter through all the failure. And he just had that resilience, like maybe like nobody else. And all the companies he developed seem to be revolutionary. They seem to be ones that he was openly mocked for, right? Like
Right.
openly mocked for. And that being said, I think it created a massive ego because what he was able to achieve was kind of mind blowing with Tesla and SpaceX. I don't know if the Boring Company is as realistic of a company. Like I'm sure it's got money behind it. His AI stuff has money behind it, so it's a success to a certain degree. I don't know if they will ever become big things, but
Starlink's got pretty big. That's
start.
you know
Yeah, I mean, in the back of my brain, I look at it as SpaceX, but it really isn't. It's its own thing, and it's amazing. I'm almost surprised he didn't spin that out. Like I think he just likes the control of it. But I think if he sold it off, he could have. If Starlink went public, much like SpaceX, I think he might be worth double what he is right now. Right? Like it's hard to
yeah,
imagine. Um,
yeah.
Especially like it's one of these things where like when Tesla first became this thing that people bought into and became somewhat economical, it was kind of the thing, right? And there was other competitors slowly coming along. Where is there another SpaceX? Not really. Like there's sure Blue Origin or whatever. Like there's these other companies, but is anybody really competing in the market he's playing with?
No, not really. I mean, you've got countries, I'll say, that are trying, but
Yeah.
I don't think they're really competing in, kind of, if you want to call it a space race or
Yeah.
whatever that would be categorized now. Who was it? Who's the plane company, Boeing or something, that
Yeah.
they they had trouble and stranded astronauts. They just came down, I think, a few months ago,
Yeah.
from the space station. So, I mean, it was SpaceX to the rescue to go up there and bring them back. So yeah, I
He,
agree with you.
he just seems like he's created these manufacturing processes and more streamlined processes that are so hard to compete with, right? With these sorts of things. He's achieved all of this and I think that would fuel anybody's ego to that level. I mean, the level of success when you're mocked for your ideas publicly by all competitors, I understand why he is the way he is, and I realize it's not all just some of it's just personality. Um, but let's be honest, he had his base, right? Like he could have been a politician if he ran for the Democratic Party or invented his own party a few years ago with his money, he probably could have won. He probably could have won, but he agreed with the side that didn't match his base. And like a lot of the tech giants seem to go from left wing to right wing almost overnight.
Yeah.
Right. The tax breaks are in business incentives are always like, that's always a popular thing. But they all swung that way, started supporting Trump and that whole mentality, and Musk more than anybody throwing all this money behind it. And did he fear being the scapegoat? So as soon as his name started getting thrown out on Twitter and X and whatnot, did he just say, it's time for war? I'm not going to be the guy who gets blamed, who gets deflected upon with all these problems in the Trump administration? I don't know.
Yeah. Just to circle back. So, Musk overcame a lot to build his companies. Tesla, and people thought that was a joke when it started, which he didn't even start that. Someone else started, and he came in, right?
Yeah.
So he wasn't the founder, but everybody thinks of Elon Musk with Tesla because he propelled it so far, so quickly. And with Solar City and all these other things that he was doing, just really innovative. And you're right. I think there's a lot of ego goes into that. I guess you have to be when everybody is downplaying and doubting what you're able to do, but you've got a vision and you see it through, and it turns out, hey, you're right. So I give him all the credit in the world for that, and I admire that. I mean, I've said that from the get-go. I had a discussion a few months ago whenever I was a little critical of him in a conversation. He said, well, you drive a Tesla. I thought you were a big Musk fan. I'm a big fan of what Musk has done in this. I just don't like what he's doing in this particular situation. I disagree.
Yeah.
And that kind of turns me to why did he make this switch to go MAGA, so to speak? And I think there's a few reasons. I've talked about this before. One, when Joe Biden didn't invite Musk to be part of that EV charging conference or whatever, he should have been, in my mind, the very first person they called. But he's a billionaire, and they're against billionaires. And you had Elizabeth Warren going after him for his taxes, saying he should be paying more when, I mean, my understanding, I haven't seen his books, but he's paying what he's supposed to be paying, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Warren should be changing those laws and lobbying for that if that's the case, but he's paying what he should be paying. So I think that turned him, and I think there's some other things that got into it, but whenever he turned, I mean, he didn't just dip his toe. He dove right in, right? And that's where he took that, I'll call it political plunge, right? Into what he got into in the last year and a half or whatever. So let's talk about that, because that's a very important, I'm going to say, time in his life and probably in his company's existence. With what's happening there. So what's your thoughts from your vantage point of he made this change? What did you see? And, good, bad, and I'm going to say probably a lot of ugly.
I think you're likely right that it started with the kind of uninvite to this event, which was, in all honesty, such a mistake by Biden. It was so foolish. It was nonsense. It was, I don't know, like just not praising the right person at the right time. It didn't make sense. But that being said, maybe that's what started. Maybe that's what got the ball running. But he didn't play the political game for so many years. You know what I mean? It's almost like he understood that he didn't have anything to gain by dividing the public. And if you're going to divide the public and play the Trump angle, you divide it in your own favor, as opposed to the opposite. I don't know whether he's just gotten so big he feels like he can manipulate the public. He's got X. He feels like, I'm on X every now and again, and he is very active on it. He's obviously trying to work that audience.
He was very active a week ago. It was like 50 tweets, or I don't know what they call them now, about Trump and bashing everybody. And I can't say I disagreed with a lot of what he said on there. Some things I was like, that may be a little far, but I get it. And back to your point of not getting political, reminds me of Michael Jordan, back in the day.
Yeah.
There were some people critical of him saying, why doesn't he get more involved in politics and that type of thing? And he says, Republicans buy shoes too, right? So he has his views, but he didn't let it, right or wrong or however you view that, he didn't let it bleed into business.
Yeah. And that being said, when you look at the way Musk operates, what he's done in the last couple of years, I can disagree with almost all of it from a business standpoint and from a policy standpoint, his opinions. And while we're very much on the same mindset, I think you are as well. We talked about this before. Fiscal responsibility by government is super important, and we'd like to see more of it. But you almost have to give him a lot of credit for the fact that he has to be smart enough to realize that this isn't in his own best interest to act the way he is. And yet, if he believes in it, if he just believes that these policies that he's been advocating for with Trump are the right policies, and then when Congress doesn't really follow through, right, when it becomes this whole tax break / cutting measure just to give billionaires more money, run higher deficits, cut social programs. Like, that's not what he's advocated for. And so for him to push back on that, I mean, I give him a bit of credit that way, right? Like, if you believe in it, you believe in it. Now I see these reports about how they're trying to broker a dialogue with him and Trump. They're talking a little bit after they've said all these terrible things. But I don't know if that reminds me any different of Trump going to a disaster area like California after him and Newsom bash each other online, and then they meet and shake hands and thank each other for showing up. Like, what does it mean? Because we've all become very desensitized to what politicians and people will say on social media and in interviews. But we haven't gotten to a point where you see two politicians meet to deal with a disaster and start hurling insults at each other, right? Somehow it's completely okay to be completely, I don't know, rude and just all of that. Nobody's bothered by that anymore. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that would have been very unpresidential. It would have been, all of those things. Now nobody cares. You just don't do it in public. You just don't do it directly to the person. Like, that matters somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, it's politics and the way these politicians act, especially in the U.S., it's a lot different than what it was, certainly 10 years ago. I mean, Trump came on and, 10 years ago and really changed that dynamic. So now if you're not throwing insults and trying to get a viral moment, making somebody look stupid or make, yourself look great or take credit for something, then, you kind of become a little bit, I guess, irrelevant in some people's minds. But yeah, Musk, he's not well spoken, right? I'm not either. I'm not trying to downplay that, but people definitely listen to him, and he's got a certain way of communicating. And I guess I would take that into the next point about him and what's happened here the last, several months, 6 months or so, the drug thing that was brought up. And I mean, it was like he was glitching, right? He would be kind of having these movements and stuff, and it's like, I don't know, that seems odd, and I didn't see that in him before.
No,
right? It's not like that's something that's always been there. It struck me as odd, and I don't know, I have no clue, but I wonder how much that played into like the tweets last week or some of these other things. Supposedly he got into a fight with the Treasury Secretary. You wonder, because he seems a little more kind of out there, I guess, with his actions and what he says.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of like a child star or something.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, you get all this fame and fortune and you don't even know what to do with yourself, right? Like, I feel like most of the things that Musk would like to accomplish with Tesla and SpaceX and whatnot are not really for him to accomplish anymore. Like, he's laid out the vision, he's figured out operational efficiencies with help from people that probably don't get nearly enough credit. Um, but it's just at a point where it's like I feel like he has almost too much time on his hands, right? Um,
Yeah,
and he's
it's like he's
just
bored with that. That's a great point, Brian. It's kind of like he was bored with SpaceX and with the autonomous, driving and robo taxis and everything else. It feels like he just got bored, and this was a shiny thing, politics.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's exciting. Let's go do that. I
But
don't
I
know.
think that also kind of fits the drug narrative and the Twitter narrative and all of that. He's like, I don't have anything else to play with. And it's what's the saying? Idle time is the devil's plaything, right? it's it's
Yeah.
what is he going to do with his time but get into trouble? He talks shit on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's not known to have a lot of friends. He's got more money than he knows what to do with.
He's bored. I mean, I guess you get tired of trying to impregnate as many girls as possible. That seems to be a hobby of his,
Mhm.
that he also does. So yeah, it's really it's odd, and I'm wondering if he can turn this around, because to me he's on a spiral down, right? We've talked a little bit about Tesla, and it's a lot of people don't approve of Tesla anymore. People who were big fans, me included, I'm a little embarrassed driving my Tesla around these days, just because he's so tied into it,
Yeah.
right? You don't think about a GM or a Ford or whatever tied to the CEO like Tesla's tied to Elon Musk. I don't know. With what he's doing now, do you think he's trying to pivot, since he's left his White House role and Doge? We didn't even really talk too much about that, but that's got so many people pissed off, right? I think whenever, uh, oh, who was it? Bill Gates. He had a quote that, I won't get it all right here, but it was, there's a picture of the richest man in the world basically killing the poorest children in the world with USAID, defund, and everything that was going on, that which didn't amount to like 0.1% of the budget, but wow, it really hurt the U.S. So I don't know, that's going to be hard for him to get away from, I think.
It's funny because 2 months ago I would have said I might have like I don't know if I want to say I'd predict the downfall of Tesla, but it just felt like the stock had lost enough value. It felt like he'd lost enough of his base. I just couldn't figure out how he could work his way out of that. And maybe this past week has just been an exercise in proving that he can separate himself from Trump to people. Like, sure, the stock's lost a lot of money, but overall, like, you think of where it was 6 months ago, a year ago, like, it's not dramatically different. And I think the fact of how resilient it has been compared to what I expected, it says something. It really does. And I get what you mean. You're like, well, I'm not comfortable driving it or whatever. I mean, it's not on you. You bought it when Musk, like that sticker. I bought this when Musk wasn't crazy or something.
Yeah.
Or before he went crazy. I get all that. I do. I just, in the back of my brain, I think if Musk could get himself not talking about politics, or maybe on some issues that people could ethically align behind. And like, you think the things that people forgive, right? Like
Yeah.
insurrections, for example, and then stuff like that people forget. Like, I feel like if he could
Yeah.
just be, I don't want to say normal because I don't think Musk has a normal, right? But be
Right.
acceptable for a year, do some technologically impressive things. I feel like a year from now, half the people that hate him wouldn't care.
You you're right. I mean, in America, um, people love to see an underdog like what Musk was back in the day. I guess if you can call him an underdog, but I would say that. I mean, I read his book as far as how he got here and
Yep.
everything. The guy, in my mind, he paid his dues, and I
I
would
agree.
call him an underdog, from my understanding. But they love to root for an underdog. They love seeing somebody get to the top of the mountain, and they love to see him fall off.
Yep.
And they also love to see him get back up and start climbing again. So I would say that you're probably right. To me, Musk he's got a long way to go because he's taken a pretty big fall, and uh, I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. I think you've got a good point, if I'm understanding you right, that if he would just get out of the limelight, and I don't know if he can do it, it's a thing, but if he could just go back to focus on, go to the factories, get in a lab, whatever it is he does to innovate, stay off of Twitter, and just kind of, I would say, hide out a little bit and just
Yeah.
focus on the work and get whatever back
Sure.
back to where it needs to be. I could see a turnaround.
Even if he was, I don't know, responsible for some positive change in the world, I think people forgive and forget, especially if you're willing to admit your mistakes. And that, I think, for Musk is the hardest part. If 6 months from now, if he was relatively quiet or more accepting, I guess, for the next 6 months, then he was in an interview and he stated a lot of regrets. People would, I think, turn on a dime and empathize. They would. I really do think a lot of people would anyway, not everybody. Because so many people have done that, like that have done horrible things before, right? Like, and been accepted again. I think he has that possibility, and he wouldn't really. Let's be honest, he wouldn't really have to mean it. He would just have to understand that he needs to do it to get to that level, and that level, in my view, affects his company. Right? That
Yeah.
level affects who will buy his cars. But beyond that, he doesn't need it. He's got enough money that his ego could be fragile enough that it's not worth it.
Well, that's the thing. Whenever he first started, working with Trump, I thought, okay. I remember talking to my wife about it several times. I was thinking, all right, maybe he's got a plan. Maybe he's going to be able to kind of guide Trump towards better things like clean energy, like let's do some good in the world, those types of things. But he didn't, right? I would say he went totally the other way. And Musk has, like you said, so much money. He could do so much good in the world and not even feel it. It would be like you and I, buying a stick of gum. Um, it wouldn't be anything to him.
Yeah.
Um,
He he said some Semitic things a couple years ago, and then ended up touring Auschwitz with Netanyahu. I don't know if you saw that.
mhm.
And then he said, he gave an interview, said some like, oh, I shouldn't have said this or said this, like kind of very like borderline apology kind of. But I think Jewish people were like, okay, I get it. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I think the public, you're right. Um, they can be very forgiving if somebody, they do wrong. I mean, I have more respect for someone if they say, "Hey, I messed up. I thought this, and that's why I did this." Looking back, I would have done that differently, right? I wouldn't have made that choice. Um, I think that goes a long, long way, but that ego, you think of a Trump, just when you're talking about egos, that guy's never done anything wrong in his entire life, in his
No.
mind. right? And I think that's part of the play and everything that goes along with him that he was taught from whatever Ray Cohn or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just don't. There's going to be people that buy that of deny type of philosophy, but I don't think it works with everybody. I think the majority of people, because everybody screws up, right? And if you can admit the mistake, um, I'm not saying you can fix it, because a lot of these things, I mean, he's not going to be able to fix, no matter if he gives away every dollar he ever is going to make.
Yeah.
But people, I think, would be more likely to maybe kind of forgive and move forward.
I think people are different, right? Like, I'm somebody that probably almost tends to like people more that have made a mistake and admitted it than people who've never made a mistake that I'm aware of, right? I tend to empathize with that because I just appreciate what it takes to do that, I guess. Where there's lots of people that just kind of hold that grudge. You've crossed the line, can't come back from it, right? And where that line is an important thing, right? Like, there's obviously things that people shouldn't be able to go, wow, I shouldn't have murdered that person, but now I regret it. I can see why that was bad now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's regret, remorse, and then there's still, hey, you got to pay your time on that, so to speak. You've got to serve the sentence. And yeah, I always look at it like this, and I tell people, ever since I first started supervising, way back in the day, people be like, I'm worried I'm going to mess up, if you're having to do something. Or how do I say it? Let me get this right. If you don't mess up every once in a while, then you're never doing anything.
Yeah.
But learn from those mistakes and don't repeat those mistakes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's 100% true. If you I totally agree. You're not going to accomplish anything in life if you don't make mistakes.
Right. Right. And I'm like you. I have a lot more respect for those people that have made mistakes and they admit to it and say, yeah, hey, I screwed up. I turned left. I should have turned right. I think everybody can relate to that.
Yeah.
But
no, that makes sense.
I guess the question is, what will Musk do? Will he want to go down that road of redemption, or like you said, does he have so much money he's like, fuck it, I've got a lot of fuck you money, I don't need it, I don't need anybody's this or that, I don't care. He hasn't
had a lot of predictable moments or decisions throughout his life that
yeah.
I don't think many of his choices have been predictable. I don't think this is going to be any different, but I do feel like he's going to be part of the narrative, the energy narrative for the next 10 years at least. We're going to be talking about him one way or another, for better or for worse. I do think he would be wise. I don't think he's a hands-off guy in the sense that, like, even when he was with Doge, I think there were lots of decisions made at his companies that he definitely got involved with, because I just think that's his personality. While he might not have been as much of an operator, I do very much feel that he would have been wise to get somebody in at Tesla before, and even now, that's a CEO that people know, respect, care about, all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah. I think he could still own the majority, and if he's not the face of it, I think Tesla turns around so fast. They're up, they're down. It just depends on what's going on that day and what tweet gets sent out. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be a very smart move for him to say, hey, I'm putting this person in. I'm still over everything. This guy's taking care of the day to day, and he's going to be doing the communications. Same with SpaceX and Starlink and all of his companies. I mean, he's got a full-time job just chairing all of those boards, I would say.
And along that narrative, where do you see, like, my understanding is the EV tax credits are getting cut, or I shouldn't say the tax credits, the rebates.
Yeah, that $7,500, I'm sure it's gone. Which To me, I don't think that makes a big difference.
Okay.
People were saying that's why Musk was all upset about the bill. I don't think that's it at all. He lost more money in a day than from being associated with than the tax credits would ever gain for him. So yeah, they're supposed to go away, and I don't think that's a problem in the big picture.
Sure. Yeah, I'm curious where that market's going in the US.
Yeah. I mean, the prices are coming down on EVs. I mean, I'm getting emails all the time about, hey, we've got a great deal for you.
I bet.
That tells me a lot. But the used market is picked up too. And the prices again on the brand new vehicles are competitive. To me, what's going on is we're seeing more of, I'm going to clean energy in general, and I'll just throw EVs in there for this conversation. I would say it's not a speed bump that we're seeing. It's a bridge that's out in this road, and we got to find a way around as opposed to, all right, hey, here's a little speed bump, let's slow down. There's more to it than that. It depends on what happens with the bill, but I mean, it's happening. It's maybe slows down and makes the U.S. even further behind, but a guy like Musk could play a big role in continuing to move it forward. I just don't know if he will, or if he even cares anymore. Not sure.
His next 6 months will probably tell a lot of stories because he's not with Doge anymore. He's got to, unless he starts his own political party or gets into something very dramatic. And I half think him just throwing that out there was just to mess with Trump more than anything, the idea of a third party.
Yeah.
I think it could happen in the US, but I don't think it is happening.
Yeah. I think you're right. He's just throwing it out there. And I would say the next I'd say 6 to 12 months, because the midterms, and what's he going to do? Is he going to get involved with politics and putting money into races? I don't know. He indicated a few weeks ago that he wouldn't, that he was, I think he said he's done enough. And a lot of people says that's right. You have.
Yeah, I agree. People from both sides of the aisle said, I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I'd say 6 to 12 months. That's going to tell a lot, because the Republicans, they still want his money, right? They still want his cash. They're talking a little bit bigger now because it's not midterms yet. They've got a little time to mend the fence, but I'm not sure. So.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because I feel like a lot of the narrative in Canada about EVs, factories getting delayed, stuff like that has significant government support. The amount of people that, I want to say it was VW that delayed this factory being built to the next stage. They had a bunch of government money tied to it, right? And they haven't received any of this money, but now people are like, well, we gave them all this money and now they're not building it. But it all really has to do with the Trump tariffs, all this, like the auto stuff people are trying to figure out. And you see people saying stuff like, well, obviously EVs aren't working in Canada. And then it's like, you realize like the growth every year is still really good. Like it's really solid.
Yeah.
And like they need to like look at that growth and then compare it to an average ICE car growth. Cause that is right. Like flat is good for a company right now.
Yeah.
In that market.
And GM, I think it was yesterday or the day before, they announced, I can't remember, it was however many billions of dollars they were going to invest in U.S. manufacturing. And it was going to be a lot of ICE vehicles, but it's also going to be EVs.
Yeah.
And I heard an interview, some Republican congressperson was saying, see, we brought all these jobs back and, it's working and this and that. And they said, okay, but when we hear these things, when's that going to happen? They are scheduled to begin deploying some dollars at the end of 2026. I'm like, can you not connect the dots? They're going to wait and see what happens in the midterms before they spend a nickel. I mean,
they want Trump to believe they're supporting Trump. Yeah. And that's That's all that really is.
I think that's a smart move from them. You know, I mean, I think it comes down to Elon Musk. He's been a revolutionary, but this political detour, I mean, it nearly derailed him. Maybe it did. The kind of big question, I guess, is will the mission he started outlast the man? I believe so. I think he's an important component, especially early on in the clean energy transition. But it will go on whether he's on board or not. So, we'll see what happens.
There's bound to be another big figurehead, right? That comes along, just like there is with like NVIDIA and that sort of stuff. In the clean energy side, there's bound to be another revolution of sorts.
Yeah, and there's some great talent out there, some big stars, some big names. Brian Scott out of Canada. I mean, we've got all kind of revolutionaries that are helping to move this forward. So,
sure.
Hey, Brian, thanks so much. And everybody, check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, any of these platforms. Come and subscribe and connect with us. And stay tuned for next week's episode of The Clean Energy Edge. Thanks, everybody.